Good evening, everybody. Good evening, all the scholars who are assembled. And good evening, Dr.IRN Goudar, the first person for this. Now we know that most of the people who have gone through the research methodologies on their own earlier, we had for the initial batches VTU model. We have got some models which are existing across the country. And we had gone by the VTU model, wherein research scholars will do their studies on their own and write the examination. Now, barring the July-August 2021 batch, all the people have gone through on their own the course on research methodologies. This is one of the common courses that we have in our PhD coursework curriculum, and people have completed their coursework by getting 55 marks. Maybe there are one or two cases wherein people are yet to complete for some of the reasons which are valid ones. Okay? Though people have completed their coursework in research methodologies, what we thought after getting a lot of input from many of the research scholars is that there is a need for reinforcing the concepts, the ideas they have gone through in their course on research methodology. They have passed the course, no doubt about it, with 55% the marks, but still some of the research scholars who came to us and said some of the concepts in the research methodologies and some say definitions and such things are still not very clear, especially when it comes to literature review, selecting different resources, and writing the thesis, preparing your research material for publication. All these require a lot of help of the people. Having heard lot such inputs, we were planning to have a series of webinars. Dr. Anupama has already said as to why we want to going for a webinar. Planned for such a webinar series, and fortunately, we came across Professor Goudar. He was kind enough to help us out in this initiative. That's how this webinar series started, and today and tomorrow you will have sessions in the evening between 6 and 8. Thanks to Professor Goudar, he has taken time off to address all of us. And again, in the next month, on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, we have sessions on very important topics which will help all of us. Okay, this is about the webinar series that we have got, and Professor Goudar himself will be here for today, tomorrow.
1 minute, sir. We'll just mute, I think. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. I think someone was.
Yeah.
You can continue, sir.
Yeah, Shamajan had a small problem, I believe. Now I think it is all right. Okay. So I gave the background as to why this webinar series across 5 days that now we have chosen. Now, for any researcher, any research scholar who gets into a PhD in a program, he or she should know as to how to do the literature review. What are the important things that one should keep in mind? All these are very important. True, people know as to how to do that. However, experts like Professor Goudar will give different dimension to the entire, review, and further, and how to make use of the e-resources. let me tell you, we didn't have the resources. In fact, now, I completed my PhD in the later part of 80s. We didn't have any resource, but nowadays we have got plenty of resources. How to use, what to use, what to reference. These are all very important for us. This is the era of information, and you will find, let's say, resources and the technical papers all around. What to use, how to use, that is very important. And further, plagiarism is another say, thing that now we should avoid. We also say that, yeah, your plagiarism now report should have similarity index of say 10%, so that you are very safe. Okay? All these indicators we thought we will bring out in the webinar series of 5 days. And in fact, I showed the time, Professor Goudar, he gave the complete say, flow of the program in these 5 days, whatever we are planning. Each day, it will be a 2-hour session. I'm sure this will go a long way for each one of you in your research. I know some have completed, some are in the process of say completing, and people are in different stages of their PhD program. Nonetheless, this particular say webinar series should help all of us. Getting PhD is not the end of it. Now, as you know, it is only the beginning of the research career of an individual. And these 5 sessions on different topics in say this methodology will go a long way for all of us. Let me not take much time. You have already seen the profile of Professor Goudar, such eminent scholar. And the Columbia University.
Sir, you are not audible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a minute. Somehow it was muted. Hope now I'm audible.
Yeah. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah. About Professor Goudar, I did not see because Dr.Anupama has already sent out details of Professor Goudar. He is scholastic achievements of Professor Goudar. In fact, it's not too much less if I say. He is a Fulbright scholar, and he was in the University of Michigan and Columbia University in US, and further he was a British Council scholar. Way back in 1982, he was in the British Council scholar. Such an eminent personality we have. We are really lucky to have Professor Goudar to address all of us. With a short introduction and the need for having such a reinforcement session, I would say, this webinar series is basically reinforcing whatever people have gone through. Of course, for the people who are now going through the coursework, they have joined us in the months of August and September 2021. For them, of course, it is the first time they are going through. And whereas for the seniors, I am sure this will be of a great opportunity to revisit whatever they have learned during the examination of the coursework. Okay. With this, let me close my introductory remarks, and I welcome Professor Goudar again. And, sir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, very much.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Banga, Dr. Anupama. I thank the authorities of Dayanand Sagar University, especially Professor Murthy, Vice Chancellor, Professor Banga, Dr. Anupama, and other colleagues who are responsible for arranging this program. Well, as you are aware, the first talk today is on literature searching and literature reviewing and that sort of thing. This is not a very popular talk of mine. Usually my talks are a mixture of, if it is a 2 hours program, 1 hour PowerPoint presentation, some theoretical aspects, and then 1 hour demos will be there. But today's lecture, probably it will have less live demos, more theoretical aspects. The topic itself is like that. Even then, I'll try to make it more interesting by going online and show a few things which are of interest to you, but relevant to the topic of today's talk. So I will now I will start sharing the screen, and before that, I would like to request all the participants, please post your questions in the chat box, and if the time permits, the organizers will allow you to be asked the questions by switching over to your audio video. Otherwise, Dr. Anupama or Professor Banga, somebody will moderate the discussion, and you are free to ask any questions. It's not just now. I would like to request you, please note down my mobile number. I tell the number now, 9611 65781. 9611 65781. You are free to talk to me anytime you like, if the time is suitable to me as well as you. I would be glad to help you out in your research work, whatever way I can. Okay, now I will start sharing the PPT. Dr. Anupama, can you see my PPT?
Yes, sir. It's absolutely visible.
Okay, fine. Right. As already announced, the topic for my today's talk is writing a literature review and what we need to know about it. Let me just have some discussion about research in general. Research, you can see here is something we research cycle. How do you, these are all the different stages of research. First of all, you need to identify a research area for your work, and you need to design the research study, then carry out the research, then analyze the research results, publish the research results. Research results may be published in the form of a journal article or in the form of your thesis as well. This is the general research cycle steps. The research process as given by some publisher is here. This is a little bit in a different way. You define your research problem, then you start reviewing the literature. This is where I'm going to concentrate this part of this one. Then after carrying out the literature review, you will formulate the hypothesis. I was told by Professor Binga just now that you already completed the course, research methodology course work you have completed. You would have learned many things there, but I am sure you will learn many more things during the course of today's talk and tomorrow's talk and beyond. And tomorrow's talk, I'll be talking on e-resources, wherein I will go online to many resources. I have already requested you people to send me your research topics with the keywords and your name, etc. I have noted down some of them. Today I'll be dealing with one or two, and tomorrow possibly I'll be visiting many resources, maybe for searching the thesis all over the world, for searching the research articles, papers published in journals, or so to say, conference papers, or anything of that kind, different kinds of documents as well. But anyway, before getting into those details, the next step after literature review is you will be formulating the hypothesis. Then you'll design the research and then collect the data and analyze the data, and then you interpret the data and you come out with your findings. This is a cycle. What happens, some of the research scholars, what they feel, they submit the synopsis for the purpose of registration, and they feel that that's all done. Nothing beyond that. You can't change like that. But uh, except probably at the title of the uh, thesis or your research topic, probably you can make some changes, like you can redefine your objectives. You can redefine your hypothesis. A lot of scope is there. Um, I think there is some disturbance, Madam Anupama. Can you
Yes, yes, sir.
mute them?
I'm locating and I will mute it, sir.
Yeah. No, you can mute them. All others you can mute them except we two, three people. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, that is the understanding. But it's not right to say that you can't make changes, because research is a learning process. When you come for the interview for the selection as a research scholar, you come with some proposal. You come with some proposal.
Sir, you will have to unmute yourself, sir, because with the muting, I think you have also got muted. I'm not able to unmute you.
You can hear now, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Right, sir.
So once you submit your synopsis, there is an empty scope of improving upon your synopsis. There is empty scope for improving, redefining your objectives and the hypothesis. Of course, in consultation with your research guide, that's an important thing. Okay. At every stage of the research, there is a scope for you to carry out the literature review. Usually, the time when you register for PhD and the time when you submit your thesis, it takes about 2.5 to 3 years, many times up to 5 years as well. So within those 2-3 years, there would have been so many developments. If you restrict your literature review to the period for which you, till the period for which you had registered, that's a wrong thing. It's not the case. Till you start writing your thesis, go on keeping in touch with the recent publications, in the area of your interest, and go on updating. So this research activity is a continuous one. So how to do that, etc., I'll be discussing as well. Another one or two resource persons will be discussing that. But I'll be briefly mentioning some of those steps, what you can start right now and continue till not just completing your PhD, beyond till you become a researcher or a faculty member, then HOD, guide, etc. A lot many things so you can do throughout your research career till probably you attain the maximum height in your career. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, this is about the research process. The research process steps I just read once again. Selection of the topic, literature survey or review, defining the objectives, development of working hypothesis, research design, sampling strategy, pilot study, data collection, tabulating and analysis of data, testing of hypothesis, interpretation and generalization, and preparing the report. These are the different types of academic writing. It could be even an abstract, even writing an abstract itself is an important thing. Then annotated bibliography, journal article, could be book, a conference paper, a dissertation, a report, essay, book review, literary criticism, patent, research proposal, textbook, thesis. But as researchers, I am sure you are aware of what is the difference between dissertation and thesis. Dissertation is basically meant for master degrees, sometimes even undergraduate degrees, whereas thesis is meant for PhD programs. This is the format of any article or whatever it is. Okay. Structure of a research paper in broad. This is a very well-known format. Let it be, report could be in any form. It could be a journal article or a conference paper, or, for that matter, even the thesis, a very generalized structure. In the initial thing, that is title, author, abstract, and keywords. Basically, these are the descriptors for any article. We call them as metadata. Then introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusion, and references. Usually you go general to specific when you go to move towards this. Features of an academic writing. These are the important features. The focus topic are the research question. Research question is the, I should say, it is the really very important thing. If you can define your research question in a good way, half of your job is done. It's complex also. There are complexities like grammatical vocabulary, etc. One has to look into it, because it's not just the topic. It is not just the content. It is the language as well that matters. Formalities like then how precise it is, your data, how precise, and how precise are your charts, accuracy, objectivity, responsibility, explicitness, structured, and organized. Okay. Preparation of thesis. Well, I'm touching a little bit other preliminary aspects of academic writing as well. Anyway, there is going to be a detailed talk on academic writing by one of the very well-known expert in the area. The preparation of thesis, you better start writing from the very first day as you start reading. So once you register for, initially you will enroll, then you get selected, then you will undergo the coursework. From the day you start, immediately after enrolling, you start reading with the possible idea for choosing a topic. No, at the time, probably you're also not aware what is the topic you're going to work on, and your guide also may not be aware. He will have some idea, you have some idea, you have some interest. Probably then you sit with the guide, and then you will have to give a rough draft initially, and then go on doing your literature search and review work. And later on, it should get crystallized into a well-known topic, wherein you will arrive at a very important research question. That is very most important step. Getting the first draft ready, even by part, boosts progress. There is no hard and fast rule about the size of the thesis. There have been examples having even 30 to 40 pages of thesis, top level thesis. Follow standard format prescribed by the university, if available, or simply follow the guide's advice. One can also follow earlier thesis of your university for the pattern purpose, for the standard procedures, etc. You can follow the earlier thesis as well. Only way to write effectively is to read and practice. See, nobody comes as a Gnani himself. You have to go on reading, practicing, read, practice. That's the only way of doing it. Keep track of sources consulted while writing. This is very important. Now, what happens? We go on reading. We never make a note of that. We don't have a good way of keeping track of the sources what we have consulted and read. There are set procedures to keep track of that. That I'll be talking a little bit later. Use appropriate reference styles as prescribed. Take all steps to avoid the plagiarism. Research question. As I told you, this is most important thing. Formulate the research questions to determine its focus. Its focus so that it guides many aspects of review process. See, once you form the research question in a good way, probably your review literature search as well as a literature review process becomes easier. It determines the eligibility criteria, guides searching for related literature. It helps collecting data from included studies, guides in presenting findings. Searching and researching. I put researching. This is a very interesting phrase. Search is a random process of trying to identify something in a non-systematic manner, as we usually do the Google. Even the children with 4 years old children, etc., also do it. Likewise, even we may do it a little bit in a better way, but it's a random process. Research is mostly used to improve the world as it forms the systematic foundation through which new knowledge is attained. Existing knowledge is improved and the new techniques and the process are developed. That is the research. Okay. Research may require some form of basic searching. Here is a table which I have copied from some source. You can see the source I have mentioned here. The research and the search are compared here. If you take the expertise, this is research requires qualified researchers, whereas search requires no qualified person at all. Goal, uncover new information, add knowledge, identity facts. Whereas when you search something, you find something. Okay? Duration is a long duration. Research is a long duration. The search is often short. The process has steps and stages. For researching, it has got well-defined steps and the stages. And as for such, there is no layout at all. Monitored and regulated, as far as research is concerned, not monitored or regulated. Research is dependent on search results. So definitely research is dependent upon the search results, but whereas this is not dependent on anything. Sources for literature survey. Most of you are familiar with different sources. The library OPAC, library catalog, online catalog, bibliographic and citation databases like, for example, Scopus or Web of Science or any subject-based databases like, say, chemical abstracts or biological abstracts or something of that kind, EconLit, etc. Then web search engines, you are familiar with that. Full text databases are the e-books or the e-journals and gray literature. There are databases for most of these things. I'll be discussing very extensively on other resources, especially e-resources tomorrow. If any of your friends have missed today's talk, you may like to advise your friends to attend the lecture tomorrow, because if they miss tomorrow's lecture, probably they will be missing a lot of important topic rather, and useful topic. Okay, personal communication with the experts. ETDs, electronic thesis and dissertations, patent are the standard databases. statistical databases, and government reports and newspapers. Here is an example of a friend of mine who is a professor in some college. He himself is doing PhD. In fact, a month back or so, he approached me. Sir, this is the case. Will you please help me? In fact, he had attended my talk somewhere and he got in touch with me continuously. And I guided him being away. That means he himself came on Zoom meet, singly one-to-one, only two of us. Then I could study in what way. This is the topic, a comparative study on borrowers' behavior towards loans in public and private sector banks in Bangalore city. These are his objectives: to analyze the borrower's experience while procuring loans, to study the borrower's behavior, and to identify preferences of borrowers among private, public, etc. What I did is, you can see here, I have marked some phrases in blue color. These I can take as a for searching purpose. You can say borrower's experience and borrower's behavior. It could be synonymous also, who knows? And it could be private and public banking or institutions who are lending. Okay, it's a question of recovery of loans. Banks and the lending institutions, they are more bothered about the recovery of loans. The recovery of loans has got its own, there are n number of ways to motivate the borrowers to pay back the loans. Not like government loans once for all, simply excusing and leaving that. It's not that. If everybody does like that, banks will go bankrupt. So banks are also studying in what way they could recover the loans. He is doing the research on that. Mind you, after reading all these things, I could get him somewhere around 60 to 70 very useful articles, including the full texts. So in the process, I also read quite a bit on this topic. Then I could change his objectives and hypothesis as well. I could add another one or two objectives and hypothesis as well. It's a continuous process, as I told in the beginning itself. That means as initially when you submit your synopsis for registration purpose, you will come out with certain hypothesis. As you go on reading, you will get mastery on the topic slowly, step by step. In the process, you feel that no, I would have done this way, I would have done that way. Naturally, you have got scope to improve upon whatever you have done earlier stage. Now coming to the definition of literature review. This I have taken from the source. You can see here I have it is there. A literature review surveys scholarly articles, books, and other sources relevant to a topic. Its purpose is to demonstrate that the writer has insightfully and critically surveyed relevant literature on his or her topic in order to convince an intended audience that topic is worth addressing. That's the definition which I have taken from a source. I have given the source as well here. Now onwards, wherever you find LR means literature review or literature sometimes search also, because sometimes literature search and literature review can be taken synonymously, but not exactly. A literature review, what for we should do? It could be part of the thesis. Okay? Literature review could be part of the thesis, as most of your, that's the case with most of you initially. It could be part of a scholarly article, maybe selective, like part of an assessment task as well. A comprehensive review giving the state-of-the-art report to be published as an independent article. You can see when you search the database, and sometimes you'll find article in your area of interest, but they will be review articles. Reviewing the literature, somebody what some people do is, experts, what they do is they take a topic, then they search the literature extensively on that topic, and then they go on reviewing the findings of the earlier authors, and they come out with another fresh article, as an independent article by itself, which they publish as a review article. Usually review articles are very, very useful for you people as well. A literature review for publication seeks to answer single research question. But that is see the difference between literature review for a single article and literature review for thesis. In case of research article, usually it seeks answer for a single research question, whereas literature review for thesis may seek answer for several questions. The one you're okay, right. Okay, I had stopped my video. I'm starting that. Those who are seeing on the side, you can as well continue to see me as well. What is the literature review? There are n number of definitions of literature review. Some of them I have picked up from different sources. It is an account of what has been published on a topic by accredited scholars and the researchers. This is by University of Toronto. It discusses published information in a particular subject area and sometimes in a certain time period. It's a North Carolina University website. It is a body of text that aims to review the critical points of current knowledge on a particular topic. It's a Wikipedia definition. LR, the purpose and why. Again, sometimes PPT to PPT, there could be small repetitions. Please don't mind for it. Okay. Establishes context for our research. This is the most important thing. See, whatever research you are doing, the literature review, it sets up the context for your research question. Find out what is already known to locate the gaps and justify the research topic chosen. And this is the one of the very important function of literature search and literature review. You know what happens? You have carried out extensive literature search before actually finalizing your topic. While doing so, you go on reading, and then try to think of something which has not been done already. Locate the gaps. That's what it means. It helps to know research trend in the subject area. When you carry out the literature review, you can, that itself could be some sort of an article or whatever it is, whatever you write. It could be a research. It could indicate a research trend in the area of your research. It provides a description, summary, and the critical evaluation of each work. It locates work of important theorists as well. Continued to set the scholarly context, I already told you. To define the problem of the study. This is most important. The literature review helps you to define the problem in a proper way. That's very important. It proposes to something that goes against or controversial. See, whenever you are doing something, if you are doing something, you have come out with some results. Earlier, people have done some work in the same area, in the same method, but what you have found is totally the other way around with the earlier researchers, or earlier researchers have found something and you carry out your research and you find that it is totally against the earlier research. It could be. You don't take it to the granted that whatever you do, it has to be confirmed. No, not necessarily. It can go also against. Even that itself is a research to prove that something which you have assumed is wrong. Suppose you have made some hypothesis, and after carrying out your research, you find that whatever hypothesis you had chosen, and you found the other way around, your hypothesis proves to be wrong. So just don't bother, even if the hypothesis, what you have defined earlier in the beginning, proves to be the other way around. Even that is itself is a research. So don't get worried about that. Identifies useful methodologies and methods and demonstrates one's knowledge of field. So when you write your literature review, it all depends upon how well you read, how well you critically read the earlier researchers' findings and write it in your own way. It definitely demonstrates your knowledge in the field. It also avoids duplication, helps to derive appropriate variables of the study. It authenticates your work as well. Research question already I defined it. I'll skip this. Background research for the literature. What all you do, even what you do earlier to carrying out actually literature review, that itself is also a research. Understanding the research area and the terminology, very important. You should understand your research area in a thorough way, and the terminology is used. You should be very thorough with that. Published review articles on similar topics are always useful for this purpose. Dictionaries and the encyclopedias and the handbooks can be used to get the definition of terms. And there could be different definitions of the same term in different way, but you should see the definition in the context of your research. A broad preliminary searching helps to understand the quantity of existing literature. For example, one of the research scholars, her name is Sudha Dipti. She is from mechanical engineering department. I hope she is attending the session today. And she sent me a message today that, sir, I have not yet finalized my topic, but I feel like working on landing gear systems for aircraft. Now, she is not, she is thinking of something, but still she has not yet finalized. So what she can do is, she can start searching the literature on landing gear, okay? You can start with, say, Google Scholar to start with. Then go on searching and reading some literature, etc. By the time you read about at least some 15 to 20 very thorough articles on landing gear systems, probably you will have some idea of the topic that can be thought for your research. Okay, that is a that means while doing so, if you search, say for example, landing gear system, on the top you will find there will be 100,000 references, or if it is a too specific topic, you may get a few thousand records. Anyway, I'll be going online today, taking the same example of landing gear systems, and tomorrow I'll be taking the examples of other requests. The larger databases like the Google Scholar or the Scopus or GGate Plus or Web of Science, etc., and for the medical people, PubMed Central for engineering people, IEEE Explorer, etc., they are very useful for searching. And many people are of the impression that some of these databases are commercial. Yes, in case of Web of Science or Scopus and GGate Plus, they are commercial. But Google Scholar, PubMed Central, IEEE Explore, they're all open access. As far as the bibliographic databases are concerned, they're open access. You can search them free of charge without any payment, etc. But out of the, suppose you search IEEE Explore, those people who are working in electronics, electrical engineering, and related subjects, you may find some 40, 50 articles in the area of your interest. Out of that, there could be some 5 to 10 articles which are available in the open access. Rest of the things you may have to either buy or do some way of getting them, either from some other library, or you can approach your librarian. And one thing I would like to request you at this stage itself, that usually your librarian is a resourceful person, because he will know the other library professionals working in another institution who have got access to many other resources. So probably he can help you to get PDFs of articles for which you don't have access. So try to make use of the help of the librarian. Next, one of the important step is before carrying out the literature survey, you should make the list of keywords in your research area. Start by creating list of keywords related to your research question. Include each of the key concepts or the variables you are interested in, and list any synonyms. Just if you give keywords, it's not enough. Sometimes the author of earlier paper would have used instead of that keyword a synonym of that particular keyword he would have used. So you have to think of the synonyms of the keywords, whatever you are trying to search in, and also related terms. If you discover new keywords in the process of your literature search, please add that keyword as well. You know what happens? You start searching and using some key concepts or keywords. As you go on searching, you'll find new keywords for your topic. Hello, some disturbance. Okay, please avoid crisscross talking, please. Okay. Authentication of literature. This is very important step. That is based on author's credentials. See, especially nowadays, it has become a serious problem when we search databases like Google Scholar. You will end up both quality as well as low quality articles. Hello. There is somebody is talking in between.
Yes, sir. I'm
Madam,
just mute.
Will you please mute
person.
them?
Yeah. The person
Please.
is mute.
Okay. The important credentials are author's credentials. For example, you have to see in which field he has got expertise. Types of evidences of the authors relies on case studies, narrative, statistics, etc., and reliability. Author's point of view and author's arguments. How the author is arguing about his findings. That's also very important for you to choose. You need to carry out this sort of checking the credentials. I know it is difficult. It's easier for me to tell you, but it's very difficult to do. Author's contributions to the scholarly discussion on the topic should try to trace these other sort of things as well. The author's affiliation credentials. If suppose you find an article in the area of your research, author is from, say, Indian Institute of Science or Harvard University. You don't have to do further, valuation of the author's credential. You can simply go for that. So author's affiliation also matters a lot. This is the literature review cycle. Identify the question, review the discipline styles, search the literature, manage your references, critically analyze. This is very most important. I'll explain that as well. Synthesize and write the review. This is the most important step. What happens? People what used to do, of course, nowadays they are not doing like that. Earlier, what they used to do, simply search databases like either Google Scholar or PubMed Central, or for that matter, any other bibliographic database. Then just copy them, copy the abstracts, put the abstracts in certain fashion, either chronologically or subject-wise. Just copy and paste them and put them together. And that they used to call as literature review, which is totally wrong. It is not a literature review at all. You have just copied and put them. Of course, you cannot get away with this sort of literature review now, because UGC has prescribed the plagiarism checking for similarity purpose, and thereby, if you copy the abstract as it is from the author's abstract, it will be 100% similarity. So I give you a hint. Okay. Even if you do like that, what you can do is a hint for you. What you can do, you can rewrite the author's abstract in your own sentences. You can just rewrite the author's abstract in your own sentences. Then you'll see the big difference. One of my students, what he did is he had done the same thing. Almost the similarity was of the order of about 80%. Then he approached me. I did some work for him. I rewrote some 2-3 abstracts in my own sentences. I told him, okay, I cannot do everything for you. You rewrite in your own sentences the abstracts. Okay, he did that. But you can't escape without citing. You have to cite the author. Okay, even if you write that is called paraphrasing. You can paraphrase the findings of the earlier authors, and then that would reduce the problem. Okay. Then when he did that, it came down to 15%, from 80% to 15%, and that is acceptable. Okay, right. Searching the literature. These are the steps involved in searching the literature. Define your research question. Identify relevant search terms. Develop your search plan. That means you have to use and or not Boolean operators. You can combine two concepts of the same topic with an and operator. If there are synonyms, you can use or in between. You can put both the terms so and so or so and so. That means it will search both the terms and form a common set out of that. I'll be going online and showing you some of these things in the later part of this talk. Okay, test and refine your search. Select relevant databases and run searches. This is very important. You have to search the relevant databases. If you are working in engineering area, simply searching PubMed Central may not, it will give you some results, but may not be of that relevance. Then document and the manage search results. You can save them in EndNote or in Mendeley, etc. I will be talking a little bit later about that, but not in detail. Okay. Types of literature review. There are many people do the classify the literature review in many ways. Basically, you can say traditional or the narrative review literature, which usually you will be doing. Okay, so usually it's critical and it summarizes the literature to draw the conclusion. Systematic review of the literature. This is very, very important, but usually systematic review uses a well-defined approach. They have set guidelines how to carry out the systematic review. Usually these clinical studies, they are using this systematic review methods. Okay, for example, there is one called Cochrane Library, published by I think Wiley, published by Wiley. What they do is they identify authors. They take some clinical aspect of it and ask them to write the systematic review on that subject. No, it cannot be just like that, because relying on the systematic review of one's review, the doctors will be prescribing or giving the treatment to the patients. You know, it's a very serious matter. So they do it in a very, very sophisticated manner. There are databases of that kind. Cochrane Library is one of them. You know, they do it in medical sciences. But in our case, we usually do traditional and narrative review of the literature as a part of writing an article or as a part of our thesis. Meta-analysis. Review a large quantitative findings and conducts a statistical analysis to integrate those findings and enhance understanding to determine overall trends. Meta-synthesis also. It's a non-statistical method which integrates so many things and puts it as a single study. Integrated versus integrative literature review. Integrated, not a standalone, but is embedded in another assignment like thesis or the research article and fills the gaps, what you usually do. What is integrative? It takes conclusions from the reviewed literature in order to create new knowledge and such as new training program. Literature review versus systematic review, which I already discussed about this. I will not go into the detail. For example, clinical areas is usually we use a systematic review method. Dissertation literature review versus standalone literature review. This already I discussed with you. Dissertation or the thesis. Usually it's used to find the gaps in the research area of your interest, and then you carry out the literature and say that so and so studied something of this kind, so and so did this work and he found this, like that you go on explain, and finally at the end you'll say that however so none of the studies are on so and so thing, or even if there are studies on so and so topic, they have not covered this aspect, or they have not covered, say if it is question of geographical based scope, if they have not carried out this similar study in, say, Karnataka, they have done in somewhere in Maharashtra, but not in Karnataka. So that way you can justify that. Standalone literature, this is concerned with the paper one already I discussed with you. 10 simple rules for writing the literature. This I have taken from a source. I just read. I won't go on explaining them. Define a topic and audience. Search and research the literature. Take notes while reading. Choose the type of review you wish to write. Keep the review focused. Be critical and consistent. Evolve a logical structure. Make use of feedback. Include own relevant research, but be objective. You can include your research also into your literature review, but you should be objective. Be up to date, but do not forget older studies. You know what happens? There was a discussion wherein somebody asked me a question, sir, should we, because I have taken the earlier period for 30 years, 40 years, somehow these 3 years I have not done that. You cannot, you don't have, there is no excuse. If you, till you prepare your draft, you go on adding the literature. You can definitely, you cannot forget the older studies. At the same time, you have to be up to date. Writing literature, there are 3 steps. Different authors have given 3-step procedure, 4-step procedure, some 7-step procedure, some 10-step procedure like that. But I have chosen one study of 3 steps. Okay. Write smarter, but not harder. You have to write smarter, should not be hard. The step 1 includes source relevant research studies. You have to source relevant studies. Step 2, log, catalog, digest and synthesize. Step 3 is outline the structure and start writing. Basically 3 steps I repeat. The first step is source relevant research studies. Sources, it's not sources, source. It's a word actually. It's a verb. Source relevant research studies. Use Google Scholar to start with. Consult library catalog. Use resources licensed by your library. Snowball reference list from journal articles. What do you mean by that? Suppose you are carrying out the literature search. Okay. You come across some, say about 5 articles, which are really hitting your topic. Totally 100%. Those 5 articles are hitting your topic. So what you should do is you should go to the full text of that article, those 5 articles, go down, scroll down, and see the citations of that article. That means the references listed as footnotes of those 5 articles you have selected. You scan through those articles, because those 5 articles are really 100% relevant to you. That means he or she would have consulted some other references which are definitely hitting onto his topic, which is your topic as well. That is called snowballing of references. Nowadays, snowballing is very easier. If you are using the databases, those references listed or footnotes, what we call listed below, sometimes will have links to the full text as well from an article listed below the article. You can click onto that and go to the full text of that, at least the abstract of that. That sort of facilities are there with these digital era, the bibliographic databases which are in electronic form. Review-related dissertations. This is very, very important. Review-related dissertations or the thesis, whatever you call, because you carry out literature search, you don't look back the thesis already submitted to different universities. And later on, after having done half work, you will realize that somebody has already done PhD work on same topic, with the same title, with the same scope, with the same everything. Then it's a disgust for you. So before getting into the actual work, you also have a look at the earlier thesis. I will tomorrow give you a demo of searching the thesis submitted to different universities, almost 1.5 to 2,000 universities in the world. There are sources of that kind. I will be going online as well as explaining you people tomorrow. Identify review articles published by the different journals of different publishers, including annual reviews. Annual reviews is a series. Annual reviews is a publisher by themselves. There are maybe about 50 to 60 different annual reviews in different subjects. You please try to go through that. If you are a member of the UGC net, that's you, not UGC net, InfoNet, that's e-Shodha Sindhu, then you can as well have access to annual reviews. But being private university, I do not know whether you have got access to any of these resources. Otherwise, you can go to Bangalore University or Mysore University, any other university, and then have access to it. Or if you have got a friend of yours who is research scholars in that university, if they have got, so to say, remote access facility, that means that the resources which are available through e-Shodha Sindhu, an MHRD project run by Infinite people, then you can have an understanding with your friend and have an access to that as well. It's sometimes illegal, but after all, it's Indian money, so I don't really differentiate. I don't really bother about that aspect of it. Literature use some systematic approach. Be clear about the research topic. Put your topic into format of questions. This is very important. Choosing search terms and the phrases, identify relevant sources, developing a search strategy, search period, till what period you should go, you should, in consultation with your guide, you should decide on that. Also, it depends upon the topic as well. Sometimes you may have to go to 100 years back as well. Okay. Sometimes you may have to go only for the last 20 years or so. It depends. Keeping records of the searches, whatever you search, you retrieve, you keep the records of that. I'll be talking to you about that little later, how to do that, etc. But I may not go too much into the details. Okay. Making notes about the findings of other authors and making own observations. So apart from whenever you're doing the literature review, what you should be reading, you'll be reading and some earlier articles, say. Then you will list out the findings of the earlier author in your area. So and so did something, so and so found something, something of this kind. You go on explaining, but that's not enough. If you say so and so has done something, so and so has stated like this, one has found like this, fine, do it. But ultimately, after that, you should be in a position to put one sentence of your own. That is called the critical review. So you are doing the critical review. Okay, you should do that, right? Okay. What you should do is, you always, when you are searching, you should start with the recent. First, recent year, then last year, or say 5 years blocks. First, the last 5 years, and then earlier 5 years, go back. Like initially, read reference books and the review articles. Read through abstracts and the full text articles. Then search electronic thesis and dissertations databases like Shodhaganga, Base, uh, uh, the search databases like Google Scholar and other bibliographic databases. Search full text databases as well. For example, some of the well-known publishers like say Elsevier or Springer. Elsevier has got its platform called Science Direct, which covers something around 4,000 journals. So 4,000 journals, bibliographic level, you can as well do free of charge. You don't have to pay anything for that. Of course, to access the full text out of the commercial journal, you may have to shut down, or you have to find out some other way of getting it. Tomorrow I'll be dealing that as well. Remember, literature review is not an annotated video, which I already told you. It should not be annotated. Annotated means with some description. No, it should not be that. Evaluate and select the resources. I'll skip this. Step 2 is, so far I went on discussing about the step 1. Step 2, log, catalog, digest, and synthesis. This is very, very important. Very, very important. You should not mind jumping back and forth between step 1, step 2, now and then, because you read, you search something, read some bit, and you log it. Where to log it, I'll tell you about that. And catalog it, or you should digest and synthesize. Logging in the sense of, you can use some reference management softwares like Mendeley or Jotaro or something of that kind for logging it. So please, please, I tell you, request you that you don't have to pay anything to make use of Mendeley. So go to Mendeley, download it on your desktop. A desktop version of Mendeley reference management system is free of charge for you. So you become a member of that. You make use of that to log whatever you have found which is useful, maybe irrespective of the source from where you got it. For example, you would have sourced it from, say, Google Scholar. You would have sourced it from PubMed Central. You should have sourced it from some other source. There are ways and means of logging them from, say, Google Scholar to Mendeley. This you will be learning through one of my friend who will be addressing you on 5th of January. He'll be explaining you. He will go online, take some examples, search something, and he will put that reference onto the Mendeley, which will be your lifelong sati. Okay. Now you can also catalog them. There are a number of ways of cataloging them. But here probably one can make use of Excel. That would be one way, good way of doing it. I'll explain you why, what way it will be beneficial to catalog the records. What are the details of a record? Author, title, keywords, abstract, all those things, so you can put in Excel. Okay. By using Excel for cataloging purpose, you have a lot of advantages. First thing is it's searchable. Then suppose you read an article and you feel that this article is very useful for you to prove a hypothesis number 2. So you can put column wise, hypothesis 1 column, hypothesis 2 column, hypothesis 3 column. That's one thing. And also some important aspect you would like to. So you can put another column. So you read an article, and after reading the article, what are all the things for which you can use that particular article? You can say, you can tick mark that particular column item. When you're writing your thesis, it will be very, very useful. For example, you're collating all the information which can prove your hypothesis, say number 2, apart from the data and analyze data, what you are doing, it will be very useful for you. Okay. Okay. Log all your resources to some reference software. Already I told you. Build a literature catalog in Excel. Step back, zoom out, and synthesize. That means you can once again go back, then you can zoom out. Once again, you synthesize. It's a 2 and 4 process. Tips for step 2. That's just now whatever I explained. Log every relevant article you read to reference management systems like Mendeley, Zotero, and EndNote. Create separate column in Excel catalog for any potentially filter worth field. Create additional columns for article use context like a particular objective or particular hypothesis, methodology or chapter, particular chapter or something of that kind. Ask yourself whether the source article in question answers
Sorry
your
to interrupt you,
question
sir.
or not.
So your volume is too low, sir. We're not able to hear. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Wait. Let me. Now, is it okay? Hello, Dr. Anupama, is it okay?
Yes, sir. It sounds fine, sir.
Okay. I'll try. Tomorrow I'll try
Kavita
to
ma'am,
use.
Kavita ma'am was facing some problem. Kavita ma'am, I hope it is clear now. Yes, sir. You can proceed.
Yes. Okay. Fine. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Ask yourself whether source or the articles in question answers your research question. If it is useful for you, then only you store it. Otherwise, just forget about that. Who is agreeing and who is disagreeing about what? You should have an idea. Step back. I already told you about that. Connections, contradictions, and gaps. Identify the connection. Agreed opinions are the findings on the topic. That's you should be in a position to decide. Contradictions, disagreements on a topic. You should make record of all these aspects. You should be in a position to connect two different authors' articles and a common topic, common findings. Then that is what is called a connection. On the other hand, if there are two articles which are disagreeing to each other, you should be in a position to say that so and so did something and so did something, but it's the contrary the earlier author, some other author. You should be in a position to make a note of those things. Then you should be in a position to identify the gaps as well. Organize all these around your research. Okay. Mendeley reference manager. This is what already I told you. Anyway, you're going to have a separate talk on Mendeley on 5th. So, but I should say, I'll give a general idea. Mendeley reference manager simplifies your workflow so you can focus on achieving your goals. Okay? You can simply put Mendeley. Actually, it is a product of Elsevier people who have been kind enough to make it open access. You can use it free of charge. And there is software, Mendeley Web Importer. So this helps you to import the papers or the web pages from other documents or other databases or the other search engines to be imported for your account of Mendeley. Mendeley Web Importer is available for all the major web browsers. It could be Chrome, it could be any other browser as well. There is something called Mendeley site as well. Seamlessly insert reference. We can also insert the references and the bibliographies using this Mendeley site. Step 3. So far I discussed about step 1 and step 2. Now the step 3 is outgoing and writing up. Till now you did lot of homework. You searched the literature. You logged on the literature, what you found with your observations, etc. to Mendeley. You did many other things, studies. Now you are ongoing and you want to start writing. Draw up an outline and a clear structure first. You have to draw the outline and then it should have a clear-cut structure. I have taken some quotes. I want to measure twice and cut once. See, when you take, before cutting, say, cloth, you have to measure twice. Suppose a tailor, without doing proper measurement, he cuts the cloth, you'll have to shut down so much amount to the owner of this one. No, should not do. So, measure twice, cut once. Therefore, vast majority of my important work is deciding what to work on. This is by somebody called Tim Ferriss or something. An hour of planning can save hours of doing. Why hours? It could be even weeks and months of doing. Okay. Don't fall into the trap of perfection. You know what happens? In fact, I used to be the slave of this. Always I used to feel that I should do it perfect. I went on doing. I used to waste so much time of mine only that I want to be perfect. No, never think of being perfect. Trial and error makes you to perfect. So you should keep the first draft ready, and then second draft, first draft, second draft. Go on improving upon that. Okay. Outgoing. Okay. Ask. Then what you can do is you have made a rough draft of your literature. Identify a friend. It could be your other colleague who is also a research scholar, but knows little bit about your area of work. So you pass it on your literature review to that gentleman and request him to read. So what you have read and what he will be reading, sometimes it differs. So then you ask him to explain it back. You give it to him, ask him to read, and you also tell him, you please explain me back whatever I have written. Explain me what is that I have written. So in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. This is some statement. You know what happens? If your friend is in a position to explain the contents, at least in a broad way, about what you have written, what you have found, what you have criticized, if he is in a position to explain you back, probably you have done fairly good job. Otherwise, no. So once your friend clears it, then you once again have a look at it based on his feedback, try to make some changes, then show the draft to your research supervisor. And please listen to the supervisor carefully and incorporate all the corrections suggested by your research supervisor. Planning the literature, LR structure, different ways of arranging the body of literature review. Okay, have a rough idea of your procedure before beginning the composing. Rough idea of the procedure you follow. Contingent upon length of your literature, you should also should not go on because you have read about 400 articles. You go on writing the literature which runs to about 300 pages. No, that should not be the case. That whole thesis could be of 400 pages or so. If your literature review itself is some 300 pages, no. Definitely, for having read about 300 to 400 articles, we can come out with a literature review with 300 pages. No, that's not the case. Okay, and it could be chronological arrangement, could be chronological, thematic, methodological, or theoretical. And many people classify this in different way. Okay, but at least chronological and thematic are very common. Okay, chronological. The simplest approach is to trace the development of the topic over time. However, if we choose this strategy, be careful to avoid simply listing and summarizing sources in order. Many times you fall as a prey for this. You go on writing so and so found this, so and so found this. At the most, what you may do is probably you may put some similar topic findings together and put them in a chronological. Even that may help, but that's not a very good way of doing it. Try to analyze the patterns, turning points, key debates, and that have shaped the direction of the field. Give your interpretation of how and why certain developments occurred. Thematic. If you have discovered some common main subjects, you can sort out your literature review into sections and subsections. So headings and subheadings in that way. okay, that address various parts of the point. Organize the literature under themes and sub-themes and categories. A meaningful combination of thematic, chronological is always at it. You pick up a theme or you pick up a sub-theme and you combine the, you put the earlier findings earlier within that sub-theme. That is advisable. But there should be a connection between the first and the second. That's very, very important. Your general structure may be thematic, yet each theme can be examined chronologically. Methodological relates to the system of methods used in particular area of study or the activity. If you draw your resources from various disciplines or fields that utilize a diversity of research techniques, you should look at the outcome and the conclusions that rise up out of various methodologies. There are some examples. Let me skip this because for us, those two are more important. Theoretical. A literature review is frequently the establishment of a theoretical framework. For a theoretical framework, it could be that based on or calculated through theory rather than experience and the practice or the practice. You can utilize it to talk about different hypotheses, models, and the meanings of key ideas. You may contend for the pertinence of a particular hypothetical methodology. Writing the literature. Okay, similar to some other scholastic content, your literature review ought to have an introduction, naturally, a principal body, and a conclusion. These are the three main sections of a literature review. For that matter, even if you take an article, these are all the things that come. Okay, it relies on goal and the research questions of your literature review. Something spelling mistake is there. Anyway, introduction, body of the literature review, conclusion, and lastly, the list of references. Okay, writing the introduction. What are the rules to be followed to write the introduction of the literature review? Define or identify general topic, issue, or the area of concern, thus providing appropriate context for reviewing the literature. Point out overall trends in what has been published about the topic or conflicts in theory or methodology or evidence or the gaps in the research and the scholarship. Establish the scholar's point of view for the topic. Okay, getting the body. That's the main thing. Okay, group studies and other types of literature, that's reviews, theoretical articles, case studies according to common denominators. Qualitative versus quantitative approaches, conclusion of authors. You have to include all these things, conclusion of authors you need to. And apart from that, your critical review of earlier authors' findings, that also should be part of the body. Specific purpose or objectives or the chronology and so on. Summarize individual studies or articles according to its comparative importance. Body of literature review. Use subheadings if necessary to divide the review topically and thematically. Be sure to show relationships between sources. Discuss sources' significant contributions. Do not develop ideas or use sources that are irrelevant to your thesis. This is very important. You know what happens? I have seen this is the matter of discussion many a times. Some people they list out some 300 references at the end of a literature review, whereas they would have only consulted about 50 articles, and they would have explained the findings of those 50 articles. Simply appending another 300 articles or the list of 300 articles is of no use. You should never do that. Okay. References to prior studies should be in the past. This is a grammatical thing. The prior studies reference should be in the past tense, and the reference to the narrative or the text other than the studies should be in the present tense. There is an example. I will not get into the details of that. Writing the conclusion. summarize the major contributions of the significant studies and articles to the body of knowledge, maintaining the focus established in the introduction, evaluate the current state of the art for the body of the knowledge reviewed, pointing out major methodological flaws, the gaps in research, inconsistencies in theory, findings, and the areas are the issues pertinent to future study. Conclude by providing some insight into the relationship between the central topics of the literature. This is some grammatical aspects. You should be cohesive. The text should be cohesive and coherent. The overall structure of academic writing is formal and the logic. Writing must be cohesive, which means that it is linguistically unified. The reader must be able to follow the flow of arguments and the logic of ideas. Make your text well organized. Dividing your text into sensible components like sections, sub-sections always is very helpful. Paragraph structure is, you should decide in what way it should be there. Cohesion and the coherence are different levels and economy of expression. Simply go on writing. If suppose you can explain a particular findings of an earlier author with just one sentence, don't write 5 sentences to explain that. You should be brief as much as possible. Literature review, 7 major mistakes to avoid. This also I found in some study. Source I have listed here. The first mistake one can think is over-reliance on low-quality resources. Should avoid low-quality resources. Very, very important. I should say clearly, avoid using predatory journals. Don't ever, even if it is very, very relevant to your topic, don't bother about to make a detailed study of those low quality articles published in low quality journals. Okay, lack of seminal landmark literature. This is very, you should not, seminal landmark means very, very important literature. You should, many a times we list out some, we cover some 250 to 300 articles, but we may leave some very, very important seminal landmark, says 10 articles. That should not be the case. You should not leave very, very important landmark publications in the area of your work. Okay. Next is lack of availability or the accessibility to the current literature. Don't ever conclude your literature review by just referring to, say, 5 years and beyond, earlier old this thing. No. Try to include the literature the last 3 to 5 years. If you can make up to the current year till you submit your thesis, that's fine. That's fantastic. Description instead of synthesis. See, what people do is sometimes simply they go on saying that so and so did so and so study, and so found like this. That is called a description. No, that's not important. That's not good. Simply describing. Okay, you describe it, you found it, but you synthesize it and you give your own comment. That's what is required, including irrelevant content, which is sometimes you find that there is some very, very remote link between your study and earlier study. Don't include that sort of thing unless they are directly related, at least one aspect of your research. Please do not include them. Poor chapter structure and the layout. Many a times chapter structuring people will not do. You should follow standard method, say themes and sub-themes and chronological, all those things you should follow, do it. Poor referencing and plagiarism. You sometimes, you know what happens, you do something, you don't do the referencing properly, and you don't bother about the plagiarism. You simply copy and paste something, you never bother about the plagiarism. You should not do it. Anyway, you can't escape a plagiarism nowadays because of the UGC rules. Anyway, in one of the talk, maybe in the third series of talks, I'll be talking on the publication ethics and research misconduct, wherein I'll be covering this aspect as well. How to cite. Okay, this is a hint when you are carrying out the literature review. As far as possible, avoid using quotation marks. Okay, simply take a paragraph and put the quotation mark and cite. It's not a very good way of doing it. Sometimes, if it is some statement, you may have to do it. There is no way you have to do it. Okay, to support the credibility to your arguments. Okay, paraphrasing. Paraphrasing best way is you have found the particular author's findings. And instead of explaining it in his sentences, you write down the findings of the author, earlier author, in your own words. That is called paraphrasing. Okay, you do paraphrasing and write. That's a very good, but you can't escape of citing. Even if you write your own sentences, you will have to give the citations. Okay, summarizing. You read total article and you write a summary of that. Even that's also welcome. Literature review is not an annotated bibliography, a list of seemingly unrelated sources, a survey containing authors' bio list of works, etc. No. Background information are the explanations of a concept. No. An argument for importance of your research. Take notes and cite your sources. As you read, take note of whatever you read, consolidate into the content of your literature review. It is critical to monitor your sources with references to avoid plagiarism. You know what happens? I read an article, I write down the findings of the author, but I don't note down the reference along with the author's findings. Then what happens? You will be in problem because you don't know from where you have taken those findings, from which article you have taken. So there should be a one-to-one relation between the references you have read as well as the findings of the earlier authors. It may be useful to mark an explained bibliography and bring together full reference data. This encourages you to recall what you read, and it also saves your time. You can use free reference systems like Mendeley and Jotero. One can also use EndNote if you have got access to a Web of Science through your library. But you can as well make use of the credentials of a friend of yours who have got access to Web of Science. For example, Web of Science is available in Bangalore University, Mysore University, so you can make use of that. More reading. I have almost come to an end. Literature search is iterative process, a practice of building, defining, and improving a project or the initiative, a trial and error method. It is a trial and error method based on the basic groups and identified variables. More literature by those authors on those methodologies integrate the new readings into their literature review draft, recognized themes. Writing literature review, some more hints. Start with a good outline like introduction and scope. Paraphrase as you go. Cite side by side for avoiding need to go back. Note connections between different studies. Avoid making blanket statements and refer to numerous authors at once. You know what happens? You read 4 or 5 related articles. You try to club the findings of those 3 or 4 authors at one go and try to explain the findings of all of them together at one go. Of course, you'll be giving reference, but that's not advisable. Try to avoid it to the extent possible. Try to explain step by step. Use third person and no colloquialism and the idioms. Spell out numbers from 0 to 9 and then numerals. Okay, 0 to 9, you have to spell. 1 means ONE, 2 means TWO. If it is 11, you can put 11 numbers. Okay. Be consistent with the verb tenses. Make sure that every source is included in the reference page. Use citation styles recommended. This is very important. Each university may have its own citation style, or a department may have its own citation style. You need to follow the recommended citation style. Remember, a good review literature is the foundation for good research. This is very, very important statement. Once again, I repeat, a good literature review is the foundation for good research. There's a saying, it's not the answer that gets you Nobel Prize, but it is the question, somebody's statement. Smart tools, almost to come to end of my talk. Maybe in another 3-4 minutes, I'll be completing it. In the beginning, I did not tell about this. I'm planning to have, if your authorities agree, arrange a lecture, 2-hour session on using the smart tools for literature searching as well as literature review. There are tools. For example, literature searching, there are smart tools. There are some technology, there are some programs, and literature reviewing also there are some. For example, I have smart search tools. There are Google Chrome extensions. Is, for example, Core Discovery, EndNote Click, Google Scholar button, Lazy Scholar, Open Access button, Open Access Helper, PubPeer, Scholarcy. Like that, there are so many. You can sign up into now. Now one can somewhere you can search a database like Google Scholar. From there, if the article is not available fully, you can jump onto SciHub and get the full text. That sort of tools are also there. Science Research Assistant and Site. Site, probably I'll be talking in detail during my talk tomorrow. Here's an example of that sort of things. Scholarcy is an article summarizer. Now what happens, I was just listening to this particular person's talk yesterday, and I found it very interesting. What happens using this sort of tools, you can submit about 400 to 500 articles to this particular tool. Then what happens, you can select one by one. You select about 10 articles. What it does is the Scholarcy system, it gives you the summary of that particular article, not the abstract. Summary, it gives the summary. It's one way abstract also is summary, but it gives you a good summary, which you can, it shows you online. You read and click the button, relevant or not relevant. Then like that, you can go on evaluating about 10 articles out of some, say about 300 articles you have searched and submitted to this. Then based on the your own classifying relevant, irrelevant, the system, what it does is it gives you a list of references where number one item, number 1, 2, it gives a ranking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. So you can start reading only those items which are your priority items based on the help of this sort of tools. Probably let us hope that we'll be in a position to organize this talk as well at length. Likewise, there are tools for doing literature review as well. And here these tools use artificial intelligence, AI. There are tools like AS Review, or the Fast Read, Abstractor, Colander, something of that kind, Royan. All those things are there. One example screenshot I have taken. AS Review, the system for systematic review. This is the screenshot of that. This will help you to do the systematic review of any article you give. It reviews and gives, as if you are doing the review, it gives the findings of the earlier author by author. It goes on doing that. It becomes a good tool. One thing, don't totally depend on such kind of systems. It will definitely, this will help you a lot. But anyway, you can listen to that person's talk and you can throw up that sort of questions to him as well later on. With that, let me thank you all for your kind attention. And also I thank the organizers, particularly Professor Banga and Dr. Anupama, for the wonderful opportunity. Now I'll stop sharing. Uh, the uh, the topic or the talk is for the open for the discussion. You can throw up any questions you want. Professor, probably yourself or Anupama can moderate because we have got only about 10 minutes time. But there are questions that are less in number. Probably you can allow them to talk to me. If there are more postings in the chat box, one of you can ask me the questions.
Yes, sir. Actually, there are questions in the chat box. If it is okay with you, shall we?
Will you please? Okay.
Yeah. So there is a question from the beginning, which is to do with the software name. Sir, can you repeat the software name for logging all the resources? Sudha Dipti was asking.
Once again, can you repeat?
Software name.
Mhm.
If you could repeat the software name for logging all the resources.
The one, does it mean whatever I told in the last part of my talk? Is it that or?
Yeah, I think so. Sudha, if you're there, you can.
Yes, ma'am. I got the software mentally. I have installed it. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
Thank
fine,
you.
fine. You can, the ones, whatever I have listed them, they're all open source software. So you can happily make it as a part of your Chrome or something that kind. You can install them. Yeah, on the top, you'll find all of them. And you can use whatever you feel like. Probably you will have a good demo of this. Professor Banga, I hope I am in the process of contacting somebody to talk on this topic. That would be a good thing for us to have that talk in the later part of this program.
Okay.
In fact, Dr. Rupesh Kumar will talk on that, right, sir?
Rupesh Kumar, Dr. Rupesh, I think so.
Yeah, I know, not Dr. Rupesh Kumar. The Dr. Rupesh Kumar will be talking on Mendeley, reference styles, etc. This is a totally a different topic by itself.
Okay.
Definitely 1.5 to 2 hours talk on that.
Regarding that.
It's a very interesting thing. In fact, I knew about it, but yesterday I could hear that person talk, and I was quite impressed.
Okay.
So probably we can think of having his talk. Let's see about that. Anyway, I'll discuss with you. We'll decide on that later on. Right.
The webinar series, it can go on and on depending on our scholars' requirements.
There is a question. Is there any software for drawing the abstracts? Just now I explained you. You submit say 300 articles. It reads all those 300 articles. It gives summary of some select items, whatever you choose, and it gives summary of that. It's a little bit different from that of the abstract. So that is to allow you to decide whether that particular article is relevant to you or not, based on the summary given by the system. Okay, I can do that. This is not, I can only answer this, but probably appropriately that person will be in a position to talk to you. Okay. Any other question? Madam?
Yes, there's another question, sir. An example of literature catalog in Excel. Yeah,
fine. That's a very good question. I'm happy about that question. I did not go into the details of that. You can use Excel sheet for cataloging your articles. You know, most of these databases, like for example, Scopus, probably I'll be giving the demo of that tomorrow as well. So suppose I have searched the literature on a particular topic. So happily, after doing all sorts of fine tuning of that, suppose I select about 200 articles out of the Scopus. I can download all of them in the Excel sheet itself. I can download them. Then I can modify the Excel sheet. You can add or delete the columns. Okay, there will be some 20, 25 columns giving, say, one is author area, other is title area, other is abstract. All those things will be there. Okay, one is DOI link and number of citations, etc. All those things will be there. But you can add some columns for your purpose, for your further things. You know, when you read an article, you can think for what purpose I can use this, whether it is for the chapter number 1 or chapter number 2 or just a literature review part only, or whether I can use that one for proving a hypothesis or something that can, or I can use it for my methodology. So you put you under methodology, you select it so that when you are finally going for your work, you can, because already in the column you have specified so and so article is useful for methodology, you can once again read it. Many times it so happens a particular article would be of multi-purpose. Same article can help us for methodology. Same article can help us in some other way. Or same article, say for example, it approves, agrees, or the same article it contradicts. So you can have columns of different kinds as per your requirement, and then it will be a really good exercise. Okay, that's what I mean. Any other question? I hope I explained it.
Yeah.
Tomorrow anyway,
Kavita,
tomorrow anyway, I'll be searching something and download the list of selected references in the Excel sheet itself. And probably I will try to give the demo and try to show them. You can add the columns, etc. I'll be practical. I'll be doing that tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
That's wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Kavita ma'am. Swati Jain is asking, sir, what percentage should be considered as good plagiarism?
Oh, that's a very important question. I'll be explaining that many universities have got their own standards. Some people, for example, some universities, they specify percentage for introduction, so much percentage, for literature use, so much percentage, for other part of data analysis, so much percentage. That's one way of doing it. But UGC itself has defined the things in a different way. They have clearly mentioned what is called plagiarism, what is allowed and what is not allowed. If somebody is within that thing, what sort of punishments will be there. But if he's a student, what sort of things will be there. If he's a teacher, those things I'll be discussing at length. Maybe sometime, I don't know, when I'll be talking on the topic like, research misconduct, something of that kind. In that lecture, I'll be talking at length about that. Okay? Please, madam, whose question is that?
Swati Jain, one of our.
Swati, please wait for that. I'll be talking at length. Probably I'll be in a position to satisfy your question during that talk. Okay, much more in a convincing way, right?
Okay, sir, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from Sudha Dipti, our research scholar.
Okay.
She's saying that, sir, the area for research is identified, but how to define a problem statement after completing the literature review, because literature review goes on in the entire research journey until we defend our thesis. Can you help me in identifying problem statement in my research area?
I do not know. I am not an expert in that area, but I can give you some guidance, definitely. In fact, I only took your example only. You are planning to work on landing gear systems, isn't it?
Yes,
Sudha.
sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Probably I can give you some help, but probably only your, I can give you some material which can help you to do that work, but only yourself after reading, because you are the person having the subject background. I'm a library science, but I'm a librarian. Okay, I'm not that knowledgeable person as far as the landing gear systems are concerned. Then a very, very important topic of the mechanical engineering, that to aerospace, aircraft engineering, etc. Some useful things probably I can suggest you. Based on that, you can have discussion with your guide, and you also give a thought. Probably you can identify some experts in the landing gear systems in the country. Maybe there could be somebody in HAL or NAL, or for that matter, Indian Institute of Science or something of that kind. who are working in this area, you can identify, I can help you to identify that sort of persons. But let us make it as a separate discussion. What you can do is you carry out some work on this, then you can talk to me over phone. You sit with the system and let us work together, and I can really help you to identify some people who can be of some help to you in this matter.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Sudha. There is a question from Sachit who says, sir, what if the topic is completely fresh, not many work carried out on it? It is difficult to find articles on it for our research.
Then you are a great man. Beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. To identify something for which there is no literature, if you are working on a topic, you are the pioneer. But you have to ensure that you have exhausted all ways of searching, all databases, all those things. After that, if we can establish that hardly there is any literature, fantastic. That itself, even if your thesis runs to some maybe about 100, 150 pages, 100 pages or so, fine. There is nothing wrong about it, because you are not in a position to write a lot of literature review, because hardly there is any literature. But on your own thing, you have given a thought, there could be some supporting document. Based on that, you can write literature review. There itself, we can say that I did not find any literature. That itself is also a good finding. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. So one point, sir. It's not Sachit, it's Shruti. I'm a research scholar of DSU. I'm using my son's Zoom ID, sir. The thing is, my topic is something which is international HRM related, sir. As it is like, it's a very topic where I'm not finding much articles on it. It's on FlexPatriates. I've already pinged you last week, sir. So the thing is, I am.
What's your name? What's your name? I will write down here.
Shruti, sir. Shruti. Yes.
Okay. I have noted down the request of some 5 as it stands. Because
Yes.
anyway, I'll be doing some good homework tomorrow.
Yes.
I have received queries from nearly some 15 people or so.
Yes, sir.
Shruti.
FlexPatriates topic, sir. It's a FlexPatriates.
No, don't worry about it. You have told
Yeah.
your name. That's enough.
Yeah.
I have saved all those things.
Yes.
Tomorrow, you are working for 2 hours and listening. I have
Yes.
worked for nearly some 30 to 40 hours to prepare this talk. Because
Thank you so much, sir.
this literature review, I have delivered as a part of my other talks on academic.
Yes,
as a
sir.
part of e-resources, I have done that.
Yes,
But
sir.
not an exclusive full-length talk. This is the first time I'm giving an literature review.
Okay. Yes,
I
sir.
will be tomorrow. I will do some homework for you.
Yes,
You feel that you don't. There are any references on your topic.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
do some homework and get back to you tomorrow.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thanks, Shruti. Thanks, Shruti. Sir, there is another related question. Research article to be published, how many research papers are advised to be reviewed?
It depends. It depends upon the period in which you kill. It depends upon the development of the topic as well. Sometimes you may have to restrict it to only last 10 years. The topic is of recent in nature. If it is old topic, you may have to go back. Again, it depends upon the scope you define. Okay, it depends upon the scope, your scope. Whatever you do, you can go back for 20 years, 30 years, even 100 years. Depends. So it could be anywhere between 150 to 200, maybe 100 to 200 articles should be okay for, I should say, sizable literature review. Okay. That's my view. It may not, your guide may not agree with me. That's a different matter. It all depends upon his view as well. It also depends upon your view as well.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Who's
Okay,
this
sir.
scholar actually? HP is the name of the ID.
I am Jacinda, ma'am. I am
Oh,
Jacinda.
Jacinta. Yeah, good. Okay, fine. Oh,
Yeah.
helps you. Yeah, okay. Fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much. Sir, the next question is about, again, the Excel format catalog. I think Rashmi, you'll have to wait like sir has told. The next question is about, sir, from Manu, GC, one of our management scholars. He's saying, my research topic has lack of literature articles available. How do I supplement ROLs? Can I use interview? If yes, is it accepted by doctoral committee?
Yes, why not? I already told in the beginning itself, different ways of collecting the literature. It also depends upon the way you can also define the scope. You can also, in your method of your research, etc., you can do that. There should not be problem at all. You can definitely add that. But sometimes, you know, the sort of opinion what you get, it depends upon the expertise of the person to whom you interview. If we can give his background, etc., why not? It definitely it can be used because there is no literature in our field that can be done. Even for that matter, sometimes somebody would be asking me a question. There is a general article written in a newspaper. Can we take it as an? You don't have to take it as an authentic this one, but as a supplementary thing, you can make use of this sort of literature. Okay, you can definitely make use of the experts' opinion on the topic.
Okay, so I think 3 more points to go.
Okay.
The next one. So there is a question whether there is any software for drawing for scientific abstract.
I told already. There are softwares. I showed the list of the softwares as well.
Okay.
So it's not an exhaustive list. There could be many more. Okay.
Okay. So Binsi, you will have to go through the video and then you can see that. Another question which is there from Ravi Chandran, one of the management scholar, is there any method for testing out a grounded theory or making a theory based on the past literature, and whether that will be helpful in research? How does this compare with meta-analysis? My topic involves tax laws and perceptions of courts in cases, the outcome of which can be highly uncertain. I see AI tools being used for predicting case outcomes. Sir, can you please throw some input?
To tell you frankly, I did not understand the question. I understood a little bit. Can you repeat it?
Yes, sir. Yeah. It is there any method for testing out a grounded theory, a theory based on the past literature?
Okay.
And whether that will be helpful in research? How does this, it continues, how does this compare with meta-analysis? Then he continues, sir. He says, topic involves tax laws, actions of courts in cases, the outcome which can be highly uncertain. And he concludes by saying, I see AI tools being used for predicting case outcomes. And he wants you to please throw some input.
I can't really answer your question.
Ravichandran, are you there, sir?
Can you, Ravichandran, can you send me this query to my mobile number, WhatsApp number, 9611165781. You send it to me.
Yes,
I will try to do some work on this. Because I am also a little bit outsider for this topic. Only little bit I understood about your query. I'll try to do some work and I'll get back to you anyway. Tomorrow anyway, only my session is there tomorrow also.
Okay, sir. I will do that, sir.
Once again, I request all the participants not to miss tomorrow's lecture. You please tell your other friends as well, because many resources. I have done almost 15 years of work collecting all those resources, whatever I'll be discussing tomorrow. And at least some 15 of them I'll be going online to make use of those sources to search different kinds of documents using your own research queries. One query I may use it for searching the thesis. Another query I may use it for searching a report or a journal article or a book or something. That sort of exercise I'll be doing tomorrow. You'll be really missing something if you don't attend. That's why you please advise your friends to somehow make it a point to attend tomorrow's talk. You will not really feel how the time goes tomorrow, because I'll be going online and showing you a lot many things.
So there's one last question, sir. Do we need to write own mathematical equations to show output, or can use existing mathematical equations? Question from Ashok GV.
In 1 second, repeat. This seems to be interesting.
Do we need to write own mathematical equations for output, or can use existing mathematical equations?
It should be both, probably. If you have your own equation, which you have derived out of the existing equation, probably there is nothing like that. You'll be, it will be really good. It will be sort of your contribution as well, but it should be foolproof. You can't just say that whatever I have written equation is correct. No, it's not that. You should develop that equation based on certain ground, based on the existing rules. If you can do, there is nothing like that. You can do both ways and see whether there is a difference between based on something proved based on the existing formula or equation, or based on the equation what you have derived. Probably it will be a good contribution from your side as well. I can only comment like this. I can't go beyond that.
Ashok, sir, if you are there, I hope it is for you.
Yeah,
yes, madam.
Point there. In fact, you have to check the correctness of the mathematical formula or equations that you use. That is a must. Otherwise, there will be a query by the reviewers in case you send such papers to any journal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got it.
You have answered my query, your query also. Okay.
Sir, as we know, came across different research papers and also review literatures where we found a lot of mathematical equations they written and also their output. Based on the mathematical equations, they're getting the output as well. So when I review the literatures and all, there could be I find the gap between there. Actually, there are mathematical equations. If you have not written any of the diagrams or a mathematical equation, that would be not a clear, publish the paper. That's as we are aware of that. So similar cases, can I take the existing mathematical equations, go for my research and give the output on the same existing algorithm?
Why not? Algorithm? You can as well do that. But you should be very clear that there are no other improved ones. Something of that kind, or as I told, if you can derive your own equation, there is nothing like that, but you should justify that and try to say that in what way your equation is better than the existing one, which is old one.
Okay.
But unfortunately, not many databases give the data. Equation could be treated as a data. Okay. You find the research articles on a topic, but you can't really search on the equation itself. It's very difficult. There are tools, of course. I do not know about that, but probably there are tools to search the equations as well. I don't know. I need to study from your point of view and then get back to you.
Okay, sir. Okay. So because there are existing algorithms, even though if you use the same algorithms, you'll get the same output. So in that case, like, can we go for an existing algorithm and like mathematical equations?
That is a good thing. See, in fact, algorithm is a common thing. Okay, algorithm is a common thing using which you can derive different equations as well. Algorithm is most important, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In fact, Mr. Ashok, I have got a suggestion for you. In case you want to modify the algorithm, then you'll have to find number one, prove that it does work and it does give you the result whatever is expected. Secondly,
Okay.
there are some time complexity stuff that you should bring in. If it happened to my scholar recently, of course, for get the paper published, it took 14 months. So those things it should be carefully managed.
Okay.
The help of your supervisor.
Sure, sir. Sure. Yeah, got it, sir. Thanks, sir. Thanks for the information.
So this
Madam, you have blocked
question,
my video.
sorry?
My video you are not allowing.
No, I am not allowed this. No, I did not do anything actually. But however, I'll just try. 1 second, sir. 1 second.
See, whenever I'm talking, no, they should see my face, isn't it?
Right. I don't know how that has got.
Sometimes even
But-
audio also gets locked. That happened to me.
Yeah, my own laptop, I was not able to.
Yeah, without my knowledge, it got off. Anyway.
Sir, you have to start the video, sir. Goudar, sir.
I am clicking start video. It's not accepting.
Okay. Because here it is saying that ask to start video. That is how it is.
I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We have come to the end of the session.
Yes, your video was visible, but for the last, I think, 5 minutes.
Okay, no problem.
There was one more question, sir, if it is okay with you to take that. That is about whether there is any list of predatory journals, and Pratibha SN has listed some predatoryjournals.com/journals. So there's a question from one of our physics scholars about.
Yeah. I can really talk half an hour only on this question. I can talk, but I'm not going to do that. Just to give some background for this, this predatory journal thing came up, especially in India, in the context of 2 compulsory publications before one submits his thesis. That's one of the main reasons. I don't say that is the only reason. There are other reasons as well. Interestingly, I had a very lengthy discussion with ex-vice chairman of UGC, Patwardhan, who brought out a big awareness about this sort of things. He also started that UGC Care Center, which has come out with a list of UGC Care journals as well. There are sites, this was moved mainly by one, American university librarian, P.Al. He came out with a big, he had set up a website wherein he had listed the predatory journal publishers, list of predatory journals, and lot many things. He had also put the criteria to decide whether so-and-so journal is a predatory or not. Even today, though there were a lot of cases against him, so all these publishers joined their hands and they fought against him. He had to withdraw his list. But if the list is not in that form, those that list is available in different forms. Okay, you can simply put predatory journal in the Google. Simply put predatory journals. You will get into that particular website, which lists the title-wise list as well as the publishers-wise, and which gives many other things. Probably I'll be talking at length, giving demo also about that on my talk some other day. I'll be doing that. Probably you will be attending that. I'll be in a position to really throw more light on this aspect. Okay.
Right, sir. And basically, everybody has been very appreciative of your enlightening talks, and they found it very useful. So a lot of appreciations have come from that. Thanking you for your time, for the perspectives that you shared, the information sources. Many of the scholars have actually acknowledged that they have gained a lot from today's session, sir. So so they are thanking you continuously, and I think we are very happy that the session was useful, and for yourself, or sparing your valuable time, sir. However, this system is not allowing to open up the video for some reason.
I don't know. Zoom is unable to detect the camera, something of the kind.
Yes. So that is how it is. Over to Dr. Banga, sir. I think, sir. What do you?
Sure. I think all the scholars who have assembled today have very clearly understood as to what are the foundations for your literature review. And Professor Goudar has given each and every bit of the details with so much of clarity and with so many illustrations. I'm sure it will be of great help to you. And let us wait for tomorrow's session. In fact, we were saying tomorrow there will be a lot of demonstrations. And naturally, we will learn a lot of things by a demonstration. Let us attend the session tomorrow and get to know as to how to go through the e-literature. Keeping in mind the plagiarism, whatever Professor Goudar was saying, there's a major problem that all of us are facing. And tomorrow's session should be really great for us. Okay, with this, I thank Professor Goudar for taking time off to be with us for more than 2 hours. Sir, thank you. And
thank you, Professor Banga. I'm happy that you have been there all along. This
Yes, sir.
2.5 hours, almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So thank you very much. We will meet again tomorrow. And
Yeah.
I request all the scholars to send mails or messages to your other colleagues who I understand most of you are working in your organization, but nonetheless, this particular session will be value add to all of you. Okay. With this,
Sir, what you do is today you send another mail to all the people from your email ID.
I'll send today in the morning.
Because tomorrow's talk is my flagship talk.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. I will write the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir. Good night.
Thank you.
And good
Thank
night,
you, sir.
all of
Thank
you.
you, participants. Thank you, scholars, for joining in. So tomorrow, 6 o'clock, we'll join with the same link.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Banga
Thank
sir.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.